Welcome to the Emily the Mystic Show. You're about to walk through a portal that leads to all things mystical, magical, spiritual, and supernatural. I'm your host, Emily. I'm a spiritual mentor, an Akashic Records practitioner and teacher, an intuition development coach, and a galactic channeler. If you're an old soul on a self-discovery and healing journey, you are in the right place. We'll be diving in deep to some of my favorite mystical topics, including manifestation, past lives, the spirit world, energy, and so much more. Get ready to embrace your inner mystic and live your most authentic life possible. The portal is now open. Oh, my dear listener, I can't wait to introduce you to the magical, high vibrational Tiffany today. Tiffany is a Spinal Energetics Practitioner, a Reiki Master, a crystal energy therapist, and an IET Practitioner whose modern approach to soul discovery is refreshing and impactful. She also has her retail collective Spirit and Soul Studio, which has fast become a spiritual center and place of healing for a burgeoning community of spiritual enthusiasts. This year, Tiffany launched the app Intention, which offers a suite of over 100 meditations and rituals to guide those on their spiritual journey. And finally, her Spirit and Soul podcast shares different healing modalities and daily practices shared by special guests, authors, and experts. Welcome, Tiffany, to the show.
Thank you so much, Emily. I'm so excited to be here.
And to remind the audience, where are you located?
I am on Long Island, New York.
Yes, I love my East Coast healers.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Specifically in Babylon. So that's where you can find our physical shop.
Awesome. And what is your sun, moon, and rising?
So I am a Gemini sun, I am a Virgo moon, and a Cancer rising.
Love that. And your human design type?
I'm a manifesting generator.
Perfect. So, of course, today we are going to be talking about Tiffany's multi-passionate self, multi-dimensional self, and all of the amazing things that she does. I had the pleasure of receiving a spinal energetic session from Tiffany a few weeks ago, which just blew my mind because it unlocked a form of somatic healing, which we'll get into, that really shifted a lot for me and was very transformational. So I can't wait to talk to you about that today.
Yeah, and you had a session, girl, too. It was so good.
Yes. So let's dive right on into it. Because you have such a beautiful suite of offerings and services, and there's a lot going on in your spiritual space, your business space, I want to take it back and I want to know, how did your spiritual journey first begin? Was that in childhood? Was that in adulthood? Let's learn a little bit more about you and what led you here today.
Okay. So yeah, it started when I was a kid, and it's funny because I don't usually tell this part of the story, but for whatever reason, I feel very called to. So I'm going to kind of really go back because I always start with, I was 13 when I received my first tarot deck. Okay. However, when I really look back at it, it really stemmed back, like really so much further back. When I was a kid, I had an imaginary friend that was not so imaginary. My parents were very aware that this was a real energy, and it was like a thing. Like my family, everybody knew about it, and his name was Bo, and Bo was a little boy that was always with me, always with me. And everybody would ask, like, "Oh, is Bo here right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Bo's here," or like, "No, he's not," So my family, everybody was all very well aware of it. And, we chalked it up to, you say imaginary friend, but, looking back at it with adult eyes, I guess, that it wasn't imaginary. And I started, I would say that was my first real, I guess, mediumship. I mean, I don't consider myself a medium, but I guess that would be mediumship style. I don't know what you would call it, but that's really when it began. I always had dreams as a kid. I would always, dream of family members that passed would always come to me and visit me. And, it just kind of blossomed from there. And then at 13, I received that tarot deck. And from there, that's when like the physical, like the love for it really started. And I started reading tarot cards for my friends and family. And, it even went into like when I was 19 years old, I was I was taking these intuitive development classes and I was in tarot, like these tarot fairs and like psychic fairs and things like that. And then I got into corporate America. And when I got into corporate America, I remember because this was such a big part of my life and even in my family's lives, like we always had psychics at the house and all this stuff. And I, go into corporate America and I'm talking about these like psychic things and all this stuff. And they were like, wait, what? What do you do? And I remember feeling like I had to put that side like of me away for a little bit. And I did that. So I did that for a little bit. And then I had an awakening through my corporate job. Like I needed that in order to get where I am today. So like, I don't regret doing that. And I had a spiritual awakening when I had an infant and a toddler and I was miserable at work, miserable. I supported my family and my husband was home with the kids. And I just like, was like this feeling of wanting to be with them, like I was missing out, but knowing what I had to do. And my boss just triggered me one day in the biggest way, like the amazingness that came from this interaction. I'm so grateful for it, even though, he was yelling at me at the time, really like, you telling me, yeah, you better get your shit together and all this stuff. And I'm like, it came out, I didn't do anything wrong. And I remember like the walls closing in on me, Emily. Like I couldn't believe that I was like in this space, in this, like, how did I get here? And that's the words that kept going in my mind. Like, how the hell did I get here? How the hell did I get here? And in that moment, I decided to change my life. And I said, okay, I can't just walk out of here because I support my family, but I needed to do something. I needed to make a change. And I started a business and I started food blogging. I'm like, what am I good at? I can cook and I can write. Great. Food blog it is. And I started this food blog, which then turned into my spiritual journey. Right. So I started this entrepreneurial journey and I went back to my roots. I went back to meditating. I went back to these things. And I became a Reiki practitioner at 19 years old as well. So I started to give myself Reiki again. And I started to do these things that I was falling back into. And as this food blog was taking off, which it ended up doing, I started to realize that it was so much that my life was meant for so much more than that. So I shifted and I went into really like spiritual business coaching and then spiritual coaching. And then it just continued and continued into teaching. And along the way, my gifts were developing and I was opening up so much more. And I was working with more energies than I ever had in the past. Like I was working with goddesses, they were coming to me and I was working with all these different elementals and angels and all these things. And it was so incredible. It was such an experience. And I love, love, love this part of my journey so much. And when I like look back on it, I'm like, it felt like the most tumultuous time because I was like really striving and striving. But at the same time, I look back and I realize how supported I was like energetically and through my family and friends. And one day it was just like, okay, we're going to open up Spirit and Soul Studio and it's going to be virtual because this was during the pandemic. And we were really helping people who needed it during this time, like they didn't have people to guide them through it. And so many people were having a massive awakening in 2020, 2021. And we, really became an outlet for people to start to learn these things and not to feel not so alone. And then within 6 months, the physical form of the shop came to fruition. Yeah, it was a huge manifestation. And from there, it just has been blossoming and booming ever since.
Wow. It feels like I'm looking in a mirror right now because my journey is so similar to yours. It blows my mind. Everything you shared from having the imaginary friend in childhood to getting the tarot deck as a teenager to the corporate job to starting the business. I started mine as a health and fitness coach. and then finally leading that to returning to your spiritual gifts and interests and rediscovering that part of yourself all over again. So, wow, I just have full body chills with everything that you shared.
Wow, that's amazing. I love the parallels here though. And it's great. I'm
Lots.
sure that it resonates too with so many people. And like if you're feeling that call, like a portion of that is like, yes, I'm on that same path, but you haven't like followed the calling. Like this is your synchronicity. This is your sign. Like look at Emily, look at myself. Like we did it. We followed and look where we are.
100%. And a question that comes forward for me, because I haven't really spoken about this a lot on this podcast, is I would love to know, as you are returning to your spiritual interest, you have your family, you're married, you have kids, you have your corporate job. How did you start integrating your spirituality and your spiritual self in with your family? And what was the response? What was the reaction to the people in your life? Because I feel like a lot of people listening are nervous about coming out of the spiritual closet or sharing this with their loved ones. So how did that go for you?
Well, I was doing a lot of this like in the morning. So I would wake up early and like super early. So I was, by the end, I was getting up at like 3:30 in the morning. And I was really like working on my business and myself all before my family would wake up in the morning. And that's how it began. So my husband is always like such a team player. He's so amazing. And he would always, I'd be like, listen, this is my time. So, and I had an infant at the time. So I'm like, if the baby wakes up, can you please take care of him? And he would, without saying a word, he would, help out if I was meditating or working or whatever it was. He would always, help out in the morning. And then when I started to really dive super deep into like, the manifesting and the working with the crystals and all of that, my husband looked at me, he's like, what's going on? Because he always knew about this side of me. He always was aware of it. And he's like, all right, what are we doing here now? And I'm like, well, what we're doing is we are creating the life that we want to see. And through that, this is the magic. And it took him some time to like get on board with it, but he would never like say anything to me about it. He would just be like, all right, you do your thing. Like you do your thing. And the kids, they were little at the time, but even now, like I just talk to them super openly about what I'm doing, about the magic that's creating. I empower them. Like they have a ton of crystals, of course, and a ton of books on how to be a witch and how to read cards and all these things. And I'm like, good, explore all of these things, like find out who you are as this beautiful soul. And those things have served them really well. Like me having an open dialogue with them has really served them well. And my husband, like I guess this would be my tip to anybody who feels like they can't, maybe like they don't want to talk about it. There's a fear of talking about it. Is I always say to know your audience, but then drop hints. Right. So, like, know your audience, because if there's somebody that is just like not going to listen to a word that you're saying, or they're going to be like, you're crazy, you're nuts, like, you don't need to hear that at all. And you don't have to be like, almost like, I don't want to say fall victim to it, but you don't have to be the punching bag. So know who you're talking to. Like you have a community with Emily, like be in that community, have those conversations with them if you feel like people in your life are not supporting you. However, as you are manifesting all the things and you are, really like growing in your spiritual journey and things are magnetized to you, like people can't help but watch that either. And it's like, how are you doing this? Well, it's all the things that you said I was crazy about, right? Like it's all those things. And then you can drop those hints and like say certain things. Well, yeah, like, well, I just, I'm a believer in this, or like, I'm manifesting my best life, or this or something better, right? Like as you start to say these little things, they get stuck in people's heads. And that's what I was doing with my husband. Like I would just talk like that and say these things. And then all of a sudden one day, I hear him with the soul stir, which is something that we sell at the shop, in his coffee mug. And he's saying affirmations over it. And I'm like, yeah. Sitting on my couch, like, what did I just hear an affirmation, sir? And they just adopt it. Everybody, they do become sponges if they're open to it.
because they see they see this big change in you, that you're happier, that you're more joyful, that you're more yourself. And they want to know how, because
Yeah.
most people want to
Yeah.
feel that way too. So they want the tips.
Yeah.
So yes,
Absolutely.
it's
And
so true.
or it's going to trigger them. Or it's your
Yes.
happiness can also trigger people as well. And I'm sure that you've experienced that as well, Emily, where, people who you thought were your friends or like, even family members where you thought that they supported you. It's like, no, they supported the old version of you. But as the new version of you grows, this is triggering for them because they want you to be in the same boat as them. Misery loves company. So So we don't want to really allow that either. And we have to understand like that it says more about them than it does about you. And that doesn't mean for you to dumb down who you are, turn your, light off because somebody else is triggered. No, like get a pair of sunglasses. You know what I mean? Like you're going to shine anyway. So please remember that.
100%. I love that so much. Get your pair of sunglasses. Couldn't agree more. I want to take it back for a moment to that time when you were working on your business, getting ready to leave your corporate job. At what point did you realize I'm done, I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to move on? Because I feel like there are a lot of people listening who know that they need to make that change. Maybe they're starting to work on their business or they have an idea of what their purpose is going to look like, but they are nervous about actually doing the thing and stepping into it.
Yeah. So I know this one is a tough one, and I'll tell you my story, and it's pretty magical. And I want you to understand something. You have to be fully open to receiving from everywhere in every which way. Okay. So I just want to say that, like, I don't do this alone at all. And I would never, ever claim to. I have an incredible team and an amazing business partner. So my business partner is my cousin. And he doesn't even live in New York. He lives in New Jersey, but he knew that I had this dream and we had all gone on vacation, all of the families, all the cousins together. And he heard me talking about this. And we didn't have I didn't have a physical location at the time. And I remember when we manifested the physical space, I was still in corporate. Like I had just made a decision one day. Like I was in the shower and I, kind of heard, if not now, when? So even though I was still working in corporate, I was not going in anymore because that was a beautiful byproduct of the pandemic was that, there was a lot of working from home. So I was only going in one day a week. However, I still had a full-time job and I opened up the shop while still having a full-time job, but I had an incredible support team to be able to do that. And I knew when to when I needed that help and I never held back. Like I wasn't like, no, I have to do it myself. I have to do it myself. I've never been that person in business. I know that people can do things better than me. I know that, there's people that are trained in this and I'm not. So like, please help this business grow, So I'm always asking for help. I'm always doing that. And that's something that I needed to do at that time. So when it actually came time, so we opened in January and I left in May, like April, May. I think I gave my notice in April. And so I was there for months. And what happened was I was beyond stressed. Beyond stress. Oh, let me back it up. So my cousin, when I had said I got this space, I manifested this space. He texted me outside of the cousin group chat and said, "Call me." And he said, "I have money set aside for you for you to open your business." So that was me being open to receiving because at the time I had gotten the space and then did not know how I was going to pay for this. I was like, we're just going to do it. We're going to make it happen. And then I opened that up and just said, okay, here we go, universe, like guide me. And then he was like, I had this set aside because I knew you were going to do it. So, we became business partners from there and super, super aligned. And, when it was time, I was just feeling so stressed, Emily, like there was so much, I was really spread thin. And fear was holding me back is what it came down to. And I remember driving in because it was the day that I had to go into work and you had to scan in. So I scanned and I'm on the phone with my sister and I'm telling her like, oh, I'm like so stressed. There's so much to do. And as I drive, the bar comes up into the parking lot and I'm driving in, I'm looking around and in a big parking lot where I never had this issue before. I couldn't find a parking spot, but I hear myself saying, there's no space for me here. And I'm getting chills as I say it, but I hear myself saying the words and my sister, I hear her going, yeah, that's right. There's no space for you there. I think it's time to go. And I had to like go out of that parking lot, park somewhere else. And I walked in that day and I gave in my letter.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I called my cousin. I was like, am I doing this? And he's like, I've got your back. Just leap. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And I did it. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. And I'm going to tell you something, Emily, it doesn't come without it comes with ups and downs, of course, that as any business does and as any business should, like, let's be realistic. It is in those moments that feel really challenging that's where the most growth really happens. So it doesn't mean that I left and it's been all sunshine and roses ever since. There have been challenges, but there have been so many more moments of beauty because I continued to listen from that day, always. And I continued to listen and be guided and trust that this was my soul journey. And I was on the path of what I was meant to do in this life.
There's so many nuggets in what you just shared that so many people needed to hear, especially about receiving and being open to community and working with a team to help build your business and the right connections and relationships. So important. And I feel called to share a little bit about my story too with leaving my job, because I feel like it just illustrates this point that it might not feel easy, but you have to be surrendered and open to the crazy ways that the universe can have your back, because it will happen. For me, I had a plan in mind that I was going to leave my corporate job in February. This is of 2021. And I had this sort of timeline in mind at the end of 2020. So this was deep when we were in the midst of the pandemic. And at that same time, I got some really scary news from a family member that one of my family members was really sick and I needed to go home to help with this person who needed surgery. And so this timeline was happening at the same time that I was thinking about leaving my job. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage building a business, helping this person in my life through surgery, having to quit the corporate job? I didn't have a plan for where my income was going to come from. I think I had made $200 in my business the month before quitting my job. But lo and behold, I knew I needed to do it. And in February of 2021, I put in my notice. I helped my family member through surgery. I set on my path of building the business. And I kid you not, that month after, I got a refund check from my taxes that was in the exact amount of money that I needed to pay my bills that specific month, which is so crazy. So
amazing.
Yes, 100%. It's just, this whole thing just fascinates me. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like you have to there is a trust factor that comes with all of this. And I truly believe it. And, I heard once that, from one of my business coaches, Dan Martell, he always says, like, what is your belief today? What is your belief in this moment? And it doesn't mean that you're going to be in 100% belief all the time. But if you can be in like the upper percentages of belief most of the time, the universe is going to have an easier time working with you. If you find yourself falling into like, I just can't see how it's going to happen. I can't see how it's going to happen. And you're saying that more often than you're saying it's already on its way. We need to start working on trust, on trusting the universe, on trusting. And where does that really come from? Like, I'm big into healing and really understanding the root causes of things. So like, where was the first time you felt like a lack of trust, where like your trust was broken? Start to heal that. You start to heal your relationship with the universe as well.
I couldn't agree more. And one thing I teach my students in the Akashic Records is I see trust as a divine trinity, that there is divine trust in God's source, the universe. There is divine trust in yourself, and there is divine trust in your relationship with other people. And I feel like you're such a beautiful example of really learning to master those three sides of the pyramid, because I feel like so many of us, especially as women, maybe we're lacking in that trust of other people because we've learned to be super independent and to get it all done and be ambitious and to just, focus on ourselves and I'm the best person for the job. Or maybe we have learned to really lean on other people, and somewhere along the line, we learned to lose trust in ourselves because of a perceived failure or a mistake, which we all know, no failures, just divine redirections, right? So just learning how to lean into like what area of trust is really lacking for you can make such a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful too, because trust happens, it comes in many different ways, or like lack of trust, I should say. Like I remember I have a client that her biggest thing was like her parents would always tell her that they were going to like go and do something, and then they would never like follow through with it. So she'd get excited and then it would never happen. And this was a huge, huge thing for her because it kept showing up in trust everywhere. But do you look at that as trust at first? Not really. It's more of like a letdown, or you look at it because you're a kid as something smaller, but it's not. It's actually the source of her mistrust in the universe, that everything was on its way. She couldn't find peace in trusting in the universe. And I'm like, yeah, but the universe, you're not seeing how the universe is actually giving to you because you're so focused on what you're not getting that you're not seeing what you are getting. Right. And like starting to really redirect the awareness and understand and really let go of the energy that surrounds this trust issue. And as she started to work through that, more started to come through. And it was amazing to witness.
Yes. Couldn't agree with that more. So powerful. And obviously you trusted in the universe, and if you found your way to a variety of really amazing things that you bring to the world. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about spinal energetics, especially because that opens up a doorway of conversation into trusting in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So how
Absolutely.
did you find spinal energetics, and what is that? Share with us so we can get to know.
Yeah. So if you've seen the Goop Lab on Netflix, the special that they did, there was one episode with Dr. John Amaral, and it was with like Gwyneth Paltrow was obviously in it, and Julianne Hough. And she's like kind of famous for some videos that went out that it looked like they kept saying she was having an exorcism and all these things. And I watched this healing episode, and as I'm watching it, I remember sitting on my couch and hearing the words like plop through into my mind of, you already know how to do this. And I'm like, please tell me more, universe, because I don't know how to do this right now. So I knew then that this was something I needed to explore. And I just felt such a big calling to it. So I started to look into network spinal, and which is what Dr. John Amaral does. And I found that it wasn't really something, it didn't feel right to me. Number one, it was something that was only for chiropractors. And it just, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't sit. And then I started to go down like a rabbit hole of like, what are things that are similar to this? And I found Dr. Sarah Jane, and she came up with spinal energetics. So spinal energetics, she's a chiropractor as well, but she took many different modalities and really took the like nods to network spinal, a nod to Reiki, a nod to so many different healing modalities, sound healing, and all of this stuff. And she took it and began to combine it into one practice. And that practice is spinal energetics. So, spinal energetics, what we're doing is we're working with the energy of the nervous system. And that's through the energy of the spine. So, what happens is most of us are in this fight or flight mode, whether we recognize it or not. So, and the reason that this happens is there are so many things that we experience in life that we go through. Maybe we witness it. It's not even happening to us, but we're witnessing it. I'm going to even go there and say things that happen in your past lives. There's so many things that can actually create these bound tension patterns within your energetic field and within your body. And what happens is they are too much, they're overwhelming on the nervous system. So the nervous system, rather than letting it pass through, it stores them because it doesn't want you to feel like that again. It made you feel a certain way that was contractive. And it doesn't want you to feel like that again. So what the nervous system and your energetic field will have you do, it'll like hold the energy of those experiences in many different layers. It doesn't even just have to be in one layer. It can hold it in many different layers. And there they will sit until you let them go. So in spinal energetics, we're looking for those bound tension patterns that are not allowing you to be in your whole state. Okay. Like in your state of wholeness. So we're looking for those and we're unlocking them. And through the unlocking process, what happens is the body has many different ways of responding. So it can begin to move, which is what you're going to see like on, my Instagram and things like that. A lot of it you're going to see is mostly people like the moving. So you see that quite often. And the movement can be anything from like, full on twitching. It could be yoga poses. It could be, so many different things. But the body moves or flows as well. Or you can actually have like more emotional responses or a mix of both. So emotions can range anywhere from laughing, crying, singing, screaming, so many different things. A big one is cracking up laughing. People will just start cracking up laughing because they haven't felt joy in a long time, right? So like joy unlocked, all of a sudden you can't help but laugh. So that's another way. Or another amazing way is that the body just lays still because that's what it needs to create that mind, body, soul connection and really get you back in tune with your energy. So that's, the ways that your body can respond, and everybody's different. And in doing this, what we're doing is we are just truly letting go of these energetic patterns that no longer serve you, because you don't need the thing that someone said to you in second grade anymore. You just don't. You were never meant to carry it in the first place. But your body, your ego is just trying to keep you safe. That energetic field is holding on to these things that you don't need. And the way that this shows up in your life is that you're blocked. You're blocked in your manifestations. You are blocked in the life that you want to create. You feel like you're always in fear. You have anxiety about everything. These are bound tension patterns within your body that are causing this response. We're not meant to be anxious people. We're not, right? We're not meant to live in fear all the time. We're just not. We're actually meant to be here for a reason. What is that reason? I can tell you it's not to be anxious. It is to be the biggest, best, boldest version of you, whatever that looks like, right? So spinal energetics is going in and helping you to get there.
And I had such a cool experience receiving from Tiffany that I have to talk about. So for me, this was such a physical healing. I've had energy healing before, Reiki sessions before, which for me tends to kind of put me into more of a mental or spiritual energetic space where maybe I'm receiving a message or seeing a vision, or just kind of even in a falling asleep state where I take a nice little nap. Spinal energetics for me was so physical. I was moving all over the place. I was screaming. I was crying. I was laughing. I was on my back. I was on my stomach. I was sitting up. The whole thing was so crazy because it felt like my body was just doing its thing. And I didn't even have to think about it or have the mental conscious awareness of what was happening. And I loved that because for me, I sometimes find it exhausting to really, and this is not a word, I can't think of the word right now, but mentalize your trauma, where you're trying to come up with the reason for, or the memory, or the specifics reason for what you're feeling. For me, this session helped me just move through things and feel them pass through my body, which was really wild to witness. And what happened was I remember at the end, because I felt a lot of stuff moving through my throat. Again, there was a lot of screaming. There was just a lot happening in the throat. And I had my session the Friday before I left for a friend's wedding. And typically, when I'm in a public social setting, I'm more of the observer, I'm more of the introvert, I'm more take a back seat. And at this wedding, I was so chatty, I was so social, I was just using the throat chakra, putting myself out there, and just felt like in such a flow and so much more connected to that than I normally do. So it was really cool to see that and just feel how that all unlocked itself.
Wow, that's amazing. I love to hear the stories because what happens, what I find with spinal is that the results are instantaneous. And my belief around why it's instantaneous is because it's your own energy. So I'm a Reiki Master as well. I'm an IET practitioner. Like I have all of these things, and all of that is energy flowing to and through the practitioner, right? So it's not your energy that's healing you. It's your own, obviously we heal ourselves, but it's this energy that's coming and flowing through in order for you to heal yourself, right? Nothing else is healing you. But in this particular modality, it's all you. And I find that is why it like gets in there and and the results are instantaneous. Like I've had it where, people have manifested the most incredible things instantaneously. Where I had one girl where she had come to me and I was seeing her for a while and she had this rash. She got this like virus all over her body. And the doctors say it was right in the beginning of the summer. And the doctors were like, yes, it's going to take 16 weeks to heal. And she's like, I don't even know. Like, I got this crazy thing. And then we did a spinal energetics session. And then I was, she's a monthly client. So I saw her the next month. And I'm like, how's your rash? And she's like, what rash? And I'm like, the rash, when I saw you, you had just said that the doctor told you 16 weeks. She's like, Tiffany, I don't even know how I didn't tell you this, but that rash was gone the next day.
Wow.
So like after our session. So, I mean, I was like, what? Like that was amazing. It was supposed to be 16 weeks of this healing. And it was one day with working with spinal energetics and her knowing, right? We always have to hold ourselves in the healing space. There was a part of her that knew she could be healed, right? That this didn't have to be 16 weeks. And she held that truth and I held it with her, and her own body let it all go. So I was floored by that one.
That's so freaking cool. Wow.
Yeah.
And just speaks to the body's ability to heal itself. Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the big things that so many of us feel called to work through are tackling some of those repressed emotions that we have, whether I feel like for women, especially with kind of what's happening in the collective, there's a lot of sacred primal rage that just feels really trapped. And women have such a hard time expressing and connecting with that anger. So that's one thing, or also grief, especially around healing or losing a loved one. So would you say that this modality helps us kind of tap into some of those repressed emotions? Is this a good outlet for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially for rage, I think that it's something that really gets stored super, super deep in the body. And I always give everybody, and I know I did this for you too, Emily. I always give everybody like the sacred permission slip to scream, because women, there's a part of us, and I've seen it on the table like so many times where I could feel it because I'm in your energetic field. So I can feel what you're feeling and I want to scream. So if I want to scream, I know they want to scream. So I always say, it's okay to scream. It's okay to like, just let it go. And I found that when I started to do that people were taking me up on the offer, and like really like letting it loose, which is like what you need. And sometimes it comes out as this like high pitched scream. And sometimes it's this guttural deep within, like holding on to it from past lives or, this lifetime. And when it comes up, all of a sudden they are a changed person. So I think that rage just gets it gets stored super deep. And that is something as women, I think that we are taught to hide. Like it's okay for a man to get angry because that's men, they can get angry and all that stuff. But women are like, it's not womanly. It's not blah, blah, whatever. No, it's for everybody. And let's start to normalize letting it loose and being angry. And that's okay. Where I would say is if you are angry, let it loose and don't attach to it. Right?
Mhm.
Like don't attach to the anger, because it is when you attach to it and when you're not just feeling it through and letting it go, that's what causes the problem for you. That's what causes the blockage. That's what keeps it very deep and very deep even more. So feel it and let it go, right? Don't
Yeah.
attach. So that's with anger. When it comes to grief, what I'm going to say is this: a spinal energetics is amazing, amazing for grief. However, I suggest not to do any type of healing. This is just my personal opinion. Any type of healing until, like, you don't want to do it right away. Like someone passes and you're like, I need a Reiki healing. Like you need to start to process that a little bit. You need to feel it a little before you just look to somebody else. Because what you're doing is like, you're just looking to like pass it off to somebody else to do the healing for you. And you need to start feeling it first. So I would say grief is amazing for, like, spinal energetics would be great for grief, but don't come in like the first week. Don't come in the first month. Like let yourself process it. Like let yourself feel it through. A lot of times with grief too, we disassociate from what's going on. And then when we start to associate again is when we start to begin to feel it again, or we never even associate with that moment or that feeling. So a spinal energetics will bring you back there. So if you've never processed through it, you're going to have a moment, and you have to be ready for that. And I don't think people are ready right in the beginning.
Yeah. I think that's really important to hear. Another question is prompted for me as well. What are the benefits of spinal energetics versus a Reiki healing? Because I know you do both. So what if someone's not sure what path they should take? What are your recommendations for that?
So I think that they actually work really beautifully together, to be honest with you. I think that it's really hard to say. I think that Reiki it's a different experience, right? Like I love getting a Reiki session. Reiki is amazing, receiving this, universal life force energy. It's really healing on the energetic field. It's soft. I find it to be a little softer depending on your practitioner. I'm thinking of my best friend, Christina, who hers are absolutely amazing, but always tend to send me to another lifetime, another dimension. So but a Reiki session, I find it, like you were saying before, there's like when you're receiving Reiki, it's a little bit more of like what am I seeing right now? What am I experiencing? What am I receiving? Are there angels here? I think with spinal, I don't have a lot of that. Like when I'm in a Reiki session, giving someone a Reiki session, I'm receiving messages. I'm being guided in different ways. When it's spinal energetics, it's more about like them and not about any other energies coming through at all. So it's like a little different in that way. Plus, the movement can be very different. The response can be different. So if you're looking to relax, like spinal's not for you. Like that, it's just not. And I say that in Reiki too, for my Reiki sessions, if you're looking to relax, they're not that, because I'm a little bit more hands-on. I don't just do Reiki. I do like a mix of things with crystal and sound and all that stuff. So it's relaxing, but it's different for me. So I would say, like, what do you want your experience to be? What do you want to get out of it? I'm a person that when I'm doing my healing work, like my friend Brittany always says, like, I just want to be like punched in the face with it. Like, I just want to know, like, just give it to me. So that's spinal energetics. It's a little more forward. Reiki's a little more like softer and all of that. So I think that I guess that would be the difference for me.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. I love it. And I'm just going to pause here. If we go a little bit over time, are you okay with that, or do you need to end at? Okay, great.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Perfect. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Spirit and Soul Studio, because I think it's so incredible that you have a physical in-person space. As someone who is a virtual online business owner, I think it's just amazing that you also offer the in-person work. So I would love to know a little bit about what's it like to be an owner of a physical studio and having a team, and maybe even some of the things that you offer in person.
Yeah. So I love being a shop owner. I really do. It definitely comes with its things that you need to learn, just like anything else, right? So we have a retail component, and that retail component does take up a lot of my time because I am very, very particular about what I bring into the store. So the crystals are the highest quality at the best prices that I can give you. Like, but they have to be a high quality or they do not make its way to the shop. If I like do video calls with like all over the world to get these crystals, I am handpicking them. And if something like does come in that is not the quality I thought it was, I will not put it out on the floor. I'd rather eat the money than put it out, or like use it for something different than put it out. I just think that crystals are such a powerhouse energy for your spiritual journey, for your healing, for your manifesting, that when you're using crystals that aren't an incredible quality or a great quality, that it's actually dumbing down or not supporting your manifestations or healing in the way that you want it to. So I'm really focused on the products that we bring in. It's products that we're using. It's things that we are all using, whether I'm using them or the other girls at the shop are using them. It's something that we take a lot of pride in. So it takes time to be able to sort all that through. So inventory is a big thing. But again, I have a team. So like one of the first hires that we made in the retail, like really focusing on the retail, was an inventory specialist. So I've had the same inventory specialist. Her name is Wendy. She's amazing. And she has been guiding us through. And what they do is they tell you like these are your goals. You don't have enough inventory. This is the inventory you need to get there. So like things like that, I had to learn, and still learning honestly about it all. But that's like as far as retail goes, and like how to do the math behind all the stuff and everything. And that was definitely an adventure. And then we have this beautiful class space. So then there's the classes and the workshops and all the things. And we do at least like 3 classes usually a week, 2 to 3 classes a week. And that's dealing with everybody's schedules and really coming up with like, how can we support the community? What is the community asking for? And really sorting through that. So that's always a lot of fun. We have incredible teachers at Spirit and Soul, and that have been with us, for such a long time, like even from the beginning, just the virtual days. We have Gabby, who's been with us from day one. Erica is amazing, all about manifesting and healing. And truly this team, they get it. And like, I always try to like put this into words, but I think about my journey and like getting to understand what my soul mission was. And in doing so and recognizing what my mission was and then saying yes to it, I found the people that would support me in that, and that they just got it from moment one. So like I have like, my sisters work with me, and they're like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And like quit their jobs and joined me without a second thought. And then, we have like, Cecilia, who is just amazing, and just, she gets it. And like Carrie, like so many people, and you'll get to know these names as you're part of the Spirit and Soul family, but you get to know all these people and understand that they just have faith. And they have faith in me, of course, as the one that's like guiding it, but they have faith in the mission, and they get what we're here to do. We talk about it all the time in our meetings, is that we are not just a shop, and we're not just like a shop that's on Main Street. It's a community. We are holding people in a healing space, and we're helping them with the most precious thing. What I think is the most precious thing of all is to manifest the life that they want, right? And we don't give that enough credit. I think we don't give our dreams enough credit for the precious things that they are, because your dreams are there for a reason. And we want to see people just shining their light so bright. And it's like, I don't even have to say it. They just know it. So every person that walks in the door, every person that places an online order, you're greeted with love. and you're held in a space of love. Even when you walk in the door, you're getting a cup of tea. We're grounding you into this space, and we're like just taking care of you from the moment you walk in. So I am very, very blessed with the team that I have. And I hope that you guys all get to know them because you will love them. Love, love, love them.
That's so beautiful. And I have to come visit at some point.
Yes,
because
you
I'm
do.
close by. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I interviewed Erica earlier on in the podcast, one of the first guest episodes. So she's amazing. You will love to get to know her as well. So definitely listen to that episode. One thing, Tiffany, that I really am reflecting on with what you shared is how important it is to have this community around you and to have the right people who get the mission and who just get it and who understand. I feel like a lot of women and a lot of people in my community have a hard time making those connections. And I would say, especially the in-person piece of things, I find it, at least for me, it can be easy to find that community in the virtual online space, which is amazing. And I love building my own community around that. But sometimes the in-person friends and community and team members can be a little bit harder to pull together. So do you have any advice or tips on that, the connection and what you've learned around manifesting the right community around you?
Yeah. So I would say this. There's definitely, I'm sure that there are spaces that are out there and available to you. And when I want you to go, like, first step is just having the courage to go and not just sit back, right? It's to go and put yourself out there and to actually make friends and to look around at the people that you are sitting with or talking to and really have the open heart to get to know them. And that's going to be step one, right? It's like having the courage to go. I feel like we want, some people want a community, but they are afraid to actually go and be in one. So that's number one. And then number two, I'm going to say this, listen to your intuition, because as Emily and I are sitting here and you know that we are in the utmost of integrity, there are so many places and people that are not. And we have to make sure that we are listening to everything that's going on inside. Because if you are hearing the words, run, honey, run. You know what I mean? If you feel like, ooh, like something doesn't feel right here, listen, run. Okay. That's not the community for you. That means it may be for other people for whatever reason, but it's not for you. And don't wait to find out why it's not your community. Okay. Like, just listen to your intuition. So I'm going to definitely say that because I think that's something that's actually really important to say. I think people feel bad all the time. Oh, I feel bad. Oh, it's just me. I don't like anybody right away. Your hair was standing on end. Run.
It's so true. It's so true. One thing I work on with my clients a lot is there's sort of this expectation that if you meet someone who's spiritual, like automatically they have to be my best friend, or they have to be a business partner, or they have to be a collaboration. And I'm like, just because they're interested in spirituality does not necessarily mean that they are working in the highest of integrity or that they're the person for you. So just be really, use your discernment with who you meet, because it's easier for you to say goodbye and move on from that relationship than it is, or in the early stages, than it is to get really deep into the connection and have to extract yourself later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 1,000,000% agreed. So like, just do it in the beginning and go. But yeah, but overall, find your people, and you can find, I know people want the in-person experience, and I totally understand and get that. But for now, if you can't find that, and like, until you find that group, or how about this? Create your own. If you're looking for a community, someone else is looking for a community. Create your own in-person community. Start your own spiritual, book club, and, read Rebecca Campbell and start there. You know what I mean? Like, peel apart Untethered Soul and like with somebody else, and just go to Starbucks and do it until all of a sudden you're standing in your own community space. You know what I mean? Like, do the thing, like take the steps to create what you want to see, create your reality, right? Like it is in your hands. But until if that's not like where you want to lean, which I would suggest it. I would suggest putting yourself out there and doing that. But I would say, really start to, until you find who you're looking for and your people, like you have these beautiful virtual spaces and we're here for a reason.
100%. And I have to say, side note, I woke up this morning and had an intuitive hit, a memory that reminded me that there is a sound bath happening in my neighborhood tonight here in Philly. So I was like, I'm buying the ticket. I'm going. I need the in-person community experience. So I can't wait. So that's your sign to do the same thing.
That's fun.
Yes.
That's so fun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So your app, share it with us a little bit about what that's all about and the intention behind your app intention.
Yeah. So intention by Spirit and Soul was to help people start to live with intention, right? I think that we are just on autopilot most of the time. And when we can start to really live life with intention, that's when dreams start to come into place. That's when you start to realize like the things that are blocking you and all of that. And I think that the best way to do that, I'm a meditation pusher. I think it's through meditation. So meditating, because that's the moments where you're connecting with your soul. And there's no other, like I don't want to say there's no other way to do it. There are other ways, but like to sit with yourself and only yourself and just tap in, whether you have 3 minutes or 30 minutes, is going to be the best way for you to explore your soul mission, explore what comes up for you, explore working with angels and your ancestors and all of that who come through you like super clear usually as you start to, I mean, I want to say this not for, they come through in different ways, but they start to come through in this like really big way in meditation, in this connection, right? So the intention app was born because we are meditation pushers basically, and we have a ton of different meditations with all different people. So Erica is on there and she has a lot of meditations. I do meditations. All of the teachers do them. We have astrology forecasts by Cecilia, who that's so much fun. And she gives you all the different things for the different signs and, what's happening this month. So it's really, really great to have that. There's energy like oracle readings by Brittany on there. And then we have rituals. And a lot of those are by Frank. And Frank is he makes all of our amazing products at Spirit and Soul. Like we have intention candles and our money spray, which is the biggest seller. Everybody goes nuts for it. So Frank is like the one that's making all of these things. He's got this deep magic and learned magic. He really poured a lot of time and effort into learning everything over his years. And he has all the rituals on there, how to use the products, how to incorporate ritual into your life. To bring more of that magic in. So we wanted to have this all in one place. And that's how intention was born.
Fantastic. Wow. So I love how you can get the experience and a taste of Spirit and Soul Studio wherever you live in the world. You can tap in and experience through the app. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was important. Everything, all of that was important through the app and through the like maintaining a virtual presence was still really important to us because we started virtually. So we wanted to have those roots. Like we had people, that were tuning in from Paris and like Canada and like all these places. And it's like, we don't want to lose that with the physical location. So we maintain the physical for the, community that's physically here, but then also inviting all those people in. And the other way we do that is through Instagram live sales. So every Monday night, we have an Instagram live sale from 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11. And the community that was formed from the Instagram live sale, they have their own chat. They have their own, Spirit and Soul IG live. We're not even in it. We haven't even been invited to it, but they're all in it and they support each other just as if they were in person. So it's amazing. Like the virtual community that has been created too is incredible. So I'm really proud of it.
Can someone purchase an item from your store anywhere in the world? Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Not anywhere in the world yet, but anywhere in the US. Yeah. Yeah. DHL is a tough cookie. Let me tell you something, like trying to figure all DHL out, that's not easy. So,
But if I want the money spray in Philadelphia, I can get the money spray in Philadelphia.
you
Great.
better get that money spray, girl. Yes. You will
I
love
love
it.
Well, that is so perfect. And what do you have going on at the studio right now? By the way, Tiffany, this will be released next week. So, what do you have going on at Spirit and Soul Studio this month in November? And what do you have going on in your own business too?
Yeah. So this is our month of magic. So this is a really great time to introduce yourself to the spirit and soul community because we have a ton of free classes. So we've got, I have a gratitude circle, which is something that I've been doing, oh my gosh, now for years. And so I have a gratitude circle next week. And then all of the teachers have all free classes all through December. So that's something that you can really get into. We have paid classes as well and different workshops that you can get into, but really great to explore the different teachers. So that would be something that's awesome. It's the holiday season, so we've got a ton of stuff going on. We were going to have, obviously Small Business Saturday. Our Instagram live sales are going to have great percentages off. So that's going to be fun. Yeah. And we always like to have a lot of fun. We say like we're like a modern spiritual space. So like when you come in, there's not like spirit, like Reiki music playing or something like that. It's like pop music playing and stuff. Cause that's your life, like that's real. That's what you're going to be listening to. So we definitely take a modern approach to it. So we like to have so much fun with everything that we're doing and really bring that to you. So we've got, like I said, all the classes, all the different sales and all the different fun things coming up. So you can follow us at Spirit and Soul Studio on Instagram. You can follow us, sign up for our email list. You can go to spiritandsoulstudio.com and just sign up and you can find out all the different things coming up.
Perfect. And I will also leave the links below for all of those things in the show notes, as well as for Tiffany's personal page so that you can book a healing session with her too.
Yeah. If you want a spinal energetic session, actually, Emily, we already have a code set up. I can't remember what it is offhand, but that will be available. If you can make that available in the show notes, that would be fantastic.
Yes, it is Emily the Mystic. The code is Emily the Mystic. Easy
That's
to
what I
remember.
thought, but I wasn't sure.
Yes,
sure.
It's perfect. Awesome. So to wrap us up today, Tiffany, what does being a mystic mean to you?
I'm getting chills as you ask that. So being a mystic means tapping into the ancient part of you that knows the way, that has done this a million times before in a million different lifetimes and already knows it without question and living as the mystic every day and remembering who you are.
Perfect. I love that answer. And of course, do you have any final tips for leading a more mystical life?
I would say work on the trust factor because that mysticism really unfolds in beautiful ways when you trust, number one, when you trust yourself. So start to trust the magical, mystical person that you are. And she's right there waiting for you, ready for you to step into your magic. So keep trusting.
Hey, I love that message to wrap us up. So perfect. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for coming on the show. We so loved and appreciated having you today. And my dear listener, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you when the portal opens again next week.
Thank you so much.